Yes, welcome to Keeping Score, ladies and gentlemen, on this wonderful, almost summer, still a wonderful Tuesday. It's Tuesday today with just my recent schedule. Sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, Keeping Score will have to go from Monday to Tuesday, but that will end shortly. We'll go back to Monday. Very special show today. The executive producer is in the house for the first time. Keeping Score number 19. I'm Gill Gross. This is my father, Sam Gross, with me in studio, and he also holds, as I mentioned, the very prestigious title of the executive producer.
Thanks for having me, Gill.
It's a pleasure. Are you insulted that it's taken this long? Did you expect to get on the program sooner or what?
Well, I thought it was a good idea to let you get it right before I came on, you know?
Yeah. Well, we're going to get to that a lot. A lot that I'm going to get to today. A busy time in sports still. If you haven't checked out the topics list, this is what is on the table for today. And remember, follow the page on Twitter, follow the page on Facebook. The links to that are in the description. We start with the Rangers Game 6 tonight. It's obviously a very big night in basically, I mean, this has obviously massive implications, as it does every year in the playoffs at this time of year. But you are looking at a crossroads when it comes to a team that, you know, is still looking to win that Stanley Cup. And the good thing is, you know, going into this year, we were wondering, is the window closed already? Or, you know, will this be the Rangers' last chance to win a Stanley Cup? And I do think already, I'm just going to say this before tonight, before whatever happens tonight happens, that I think that can be put to rest with a lot of the young talent that we've seen emerge here with Brady Shea and Jimmy Vesey and Mika Zibanejad. The one thing I'll say, just to kind of calm the nerves of Ranger fans tonight, is this is by no means the Rangers' last chance to win a Stanley Cup or anything like that. What I'll say before the game, Game 6 is, first of all, Henrik Lundqvist's numbers in elimination games. This is why I'm confident going into tonight, and this is why every Ranger fan should be confident going into tonight. How could you not be? Henrik Lundqvist in elimination games, he's 15-5 with a 1.74 goals against average and a .945 save percentage since 2012 in elimination games. Henrik Lundqvist's best game is always the biggest game. And that's the nature of Henrik Lundqvist as a competitor and just a big-time player. It's even better at home. At home, Henrik Lundqvist 10-1, a 1.05 goals against average, a .965 save percentage, and 2 shutouts in his past 11 home games with the Rangers. Just one blemish in that record. That's since 2008 at Madison Square Garden, elimination games with Henrik Lundqvist in net. They are 10-1. In the game they lost, just off memory, that's Game 7 against Tampa. Guess what? The Rangers got shut out. Who on the Rangers could have done nothing about that result? Henrik Lundqvist. So, of course you should feel good going into tonight. There's a reason the Rangers are favorited in Vegas. They should be favorited in your mind as well. To be honest, it's not just the goaltending where the Rangers have the advantage. I still think the Rangers are the better team. And I've said this the entire series. I stand by it. The reality of the series is the Rangers have lost 3 50-50 games in Ottawa. It's not an excuse. They should have been more than 50-50. They should have looked like games 3 and 4 looked like for the Rangers. The Rangers, it's on them for keeping it close enough where it becomes a 50-50 game, for blowing leads where it becomes a 50-50 game. But the reality of the situation is that's 3 50-50 games. They all went Ottawa's way. That's very unfortunate. And it's on the Rangers for blowing leads. You can't blow leads. You can't give up late third period goals. That would be game 1. But, you know, the Rangers are the better team in this series. They really should win tonight. You know, the thing is, you can't go a playoff run without facing elimination. It doesn't mean you're not going to win the Stanley Cup if you face elimination in the second round. Not that I'm saying the Rangers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The point is, this is part of the process. You don't go a playoff run and you just never face elimination. You go la-di-da-di-da. You win a bunch of series in 5 and 6 games and sweep some teams. That's just not what happens. In the playoffs, it doesn't matter how good you are going to face elimination. There are going to be games that are going to be win or go home. The difference is you just got to win them. So this is no time to panic here, especially for the Rangers who have been in this position. I'll read you off the last 3 Stanley Cup champions, Dad. I know you love your stats. The last 3 Stanley Cup champions. The Penguins won the Stanley Cup last year. They faced elimination twice. Both games were in the Eastern Conference Final versus the Lightning. So they found themselves down 3-2. Chicago won it the year prior. They also faced elimination twice. Found themselves down 3-2. Had to win an elimination game on the road in Anaheim. The LA Kings the year before that. They faced elimination 7 times. 7 times their season could have ended. They went 7-0. It's not like ooh, you're not a great team because you're facing elimination. No, great teams, they just win the game. So the Rangers are fine. This is not panic time for the New York Rangers. You're going to face elimination. And you got to go get it done. Should this series be 3-2 Senators? Absolutely not. But it is, and you go handle business at the Garden, and then you win a road game in Game 7. I'm feeling confident. How do you feel about this?
Well, I'll tell you. Watching alongside you for so many years, there's probably no team that we watch and follow that has more elimination opportunities than the Rangers.
Yeah, you're very cynical, and it's true though. They've been down 3-1 twice in the last 5 years, and they've come back. Or I'm not saying they've been down twice and they've come back both times, but on 2 occasions has that happened where they have come back, and one was against Pittsburgh, the other was against Washington, and Ranger fans, they don't really learn. They still hit the panic button. You're down 2-1, they still hit the panic button. Every series now. Every series the Rangers go down, you read Facebook, you read Twitter, and you get, it's over. They're done. Bunch of bums. I'm not watching the next game. It's just, I don't know. For some reason, this is what happens, and I think that, I think maybe you're one of those people, Dad.
Well, I don't know. We've all been waiting. A lot of us have been waiting since 1994.
Yeah.
A lot of us are old enough, by the way, to know what that feels like to wait for that many years.
Yeah. So you're also you were a John Tortorella fan, the cutthroat
totally
man that you are.
Totally.
So I do want to talk about this right now because I think that, let's say the Rangers lose tonight, and we have to talk about these things. It's just something that you got to talk about. This would mark Alain Vigneault's 5th season. So and especially the manner in which the Rangers have went about the playoffs this year, the man who's been in the spotlight, and this is rare in hockey. After Rangers losses, no one has been talked about more than Alain Vigneault. This is rare. This is very rare in hockey. In hockey, normally you're blaming the goaltender. If Rick Nash isn't scoring, or your star player, I'll speak in more general terms. If your star player isn't scoring, people talk about your star player. In this year's playoffs, when the Rangers lose, people have been talking about Alain Vigneault. That's been the discussion. That is very rare in hockey, but that's the reality when you continue to blow third period leads with defensemen on the ice who fans don't think should be on the ice. I am one of those. I'm one of those Ranger fans who agree. Cutler Klein also agrees. Larry Brooks of the New York Post agrees. I mean, everyone is seeing this one way. Everyone is looking at Mark Stahl and Nick Holden and coming to the conclusion that they should not be playing over Brady Shea and Brendan Smith. Shea and Smith have been better defensemen. And Game 2 versus Montreal, the Rangers blow a lead. Excuse me. Still getting over a cough. I know, it's been forever. And then they blow another third period lead in Game 2 against Ottawa. And they blow a third period lead in Game 5 against Ottawa. This is starting to become like the Rangers' MO. Like, this is becoming a big problem. We all remember the Stanley Cup Finals. In the Stanley Cup Finals, the Rangers blew a lead and lost in OT. They were playing the Kings. This happened in Game 1, Game 2, and Game 5. 3 games. Remember, you only got to win 4 to win a series. In 3 games against the Kings in the Stanley Cup Final. This was Alain Vigneault's first season. They blew leads and lost in OT in Games 1, 2, and 5. This year, I'll say it again. They blew leads and lost in OT in Game 2 versus Montreal and Games 2 and 5 versus Ottawa. Like, this is becoming a very, very ugly MO, and this is not something that used to happen under John Tortorella. Now, I'll be fair. I'll be fair about AV. The Rangers finished top 5 in goal scoring this year. In the regular season, they were 4th. That also never happened under John Tortorella. But these blown leads are getting to Ranger fans, especially when you can pinpoint. You can pinpoint, a coaching error. You can attribute a coaching error to these goals, or at least a perceived coaching error. Because these goals, with the exception of Game 2, where Pajot scored a couple goals with McDonough and Girardi on the ice, these goals are happening with the same defensive pair on the ice. Now, last game, it was interesting because Shea wasn't out there. It was a defensive pairing that is, quite frankly, not a defensive pairing. It was Smith and Stahl instead of Stahl and Holden. But Tanner Glass was on the ice. Not Jesper Fast, not Michael Grabner. Tanner Glass was on the ice. So I want to also point that out, and that's something in my recap of Game 5 I didn't point out. I pointed out that the goal was more Glass's fault than it was Stahl, even though Stahl took all the crap for it on social media. It was really Glass's fault. Why was Glass on the ice? So this keeps happening. Now let me come at you this way. John Tortorella got fired after 5 years. He made the playoffs every year after his first season, when the Rangers, weren't quite there yet as a team.
That's right.
He made the Eastern Conference Final in his 4th year. Then in his 5th year, he lost in the second round, got fired. This will now be Alain Vigneault's 5th season. If they lose tonight, that would be a first-round loss in his 5th year. Sorry, a second-round loss in his 5th year following a first-round defeat. Worse than Tortorella.
That's
right?
That's right.
So why would the standards be different?
They shouldn't be different.
They shouldn't be different. I agree. Now, contractually, Tortorella, they still had to pay him after he was done, but they did just sign AV to an extension. So they would, but it's not a hit on the cap. So I don't think that would be a problem. To me, I think the Rangers have shown that they really believe in AV. I wouldn't expect him to be fired, but the manner in which this has happened, and, with an aging Henrik Lundqvist, I would like to see AV get held to the same standards that John Tortorella was held to. And I think that AV should, he should be coaching for his job tonight.
Well, listen, you said it when you talked about an aging Lundqvist. How much time do we have from the great Henrik? And so what exactly are we going to do to capitalize on our assets so that we can bring the cup back to New York? How about one last time?
Right. The point is, the leash should not be long.
It should not be long.
And it was not for John Tortorella. It was incredibly short. I mean, in a lockout year, this was shocking. No one was expecting this. He makes the Eastern Conference Final, which is a really, really great result. It was exponential improvement.
That's right.
Was really what happened. They improved exponentially every year until his last. He loses in the second round, not even the first, and he gets fired. Like, if you're looking at AV and Torts and what they've done through the same lens, then if the Rangers lose tonight, AV should be fired. Anyway, I do want to move on from this. I'm confident. I don't think they're going to lose tonight. They can win in spite of their power play. They can win in spite of Alain Vigneault. I hope Buchnevich is in for Glass. I think that the Rangers, they should go back to their strength. That is rolling 4 lines. 4 lines that can score. Incredible offensive depth. And the Glass has worked at times, but I hope they go back to Buchnevich. Anyway, luckily we have playoff hockey to talk about. The same thing may not be true for the New York Mets this season. Do you like that segue?
Yeah, that's the segue.
Yeah, that was a good segue.
That just makes the Rangers look better. That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, that. By the way, the show was at 5:30 instead of 6 because I don't want to cut it too close.
That's right.
Okay, because usually I start the show at 6, but we went 5:30 today. So obviously the big story is Matt Harvey has been suspended by the Mets. He did not arrive at Citi Field for the game on Saturday. He was suspended on Sunday, and I haven't addressed it on this channel. This is a big New York story. We're having a very local show today. So I want to, I guess, start by outlining the events. So he does not arrive at Citi Field at any point on Saturday. He claims to have contacted the Mets at about 4:30. I believe they called him back at some point, and he didn't pick up his phone. They then sent Mets security personnel to his house at 10 p.m. to make sure he was there. He was there. Then on Sunday or Saturday night, the Mets made the decision to suspend him. Harvey was informed of this decision Sunday morning. Harvey will lose $84,000 in the next, or some of the suspension is over, but over the course of the 3 games, $84,000. What should jump out at you is how much these guys get paid, especially starting pitchers who don't actually have to work every day, but they do have to show up to the ballpark. Harvey didn't do that. This more recent. This broke last night. New York Post, page 6. Harvey was at the West 17th Street Club called 10AK until 4 a.m. on Friday. That was Cinco de Mayo. It was reported that the star pitcher threw back, and I quote, a triple play of top-shelf booze, including Armand de Brignac Ace of Spades Champagne, Don Julio 1942 Tequila, and Belverde Vodka, witnesses said. When you go into that much detail, usually it's true, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So that's what was reported. Harvey's story is that he played golf on Saturday morning, felt fine, then took a nap, and woke up with a migraine. I don't know if I really believe him that he played golf. Maybe he did play golf, but it sounds like he didn't show up to work because he was hungover. We all know Harvey as a party animal. Everyone knows that. That's something that's really just, become part of Matt Harvey is. Anyone who knows him, anyone who covers him knows that. This is ugly. This is a very, very ugly situation.
Special perk in New York. You get party day off.
That's right. Yeah, let me get to that. So, is this on the Mets? Is this on Matt Harvey? Here's my take on this. This makes too much sense to be a coincidence. The fact that you just alluded to Derrick Rose, okay? If that went over anyone's head, there's only been 2 players in the sports world this year who have not showed up to work, as far as I know. One of them is Derrick Rose. He wears orange and blue and plays in New York. The other one is Matt Harvey. He wears orange and blue and plays in New York. And if you're a Jets fan, I'm not letting you off the hook either by the time I'm done here. Dysfunction does not hold dysfunction accountable. Matt Harvey has a history. This is his first suspension and the first time he's been disciplined. But he was infamously tardy for a workout. A practice. He missed a practice in the 2015 postseason. In 2016, Harvey was late to one of the team's exhibition games in Las Vegas. An anonymous teammate told the Washington Post today, quote, he wants to be Derek Jeter. To do that, you've got to show up. This is not a first-time thing. This is a pattern with Matt Harvey. Matt Harvey has been acting in a problematic manner since he got to New York. And this is the first time he has been disciplined for it. Dysfunction does not hold dysfunction accountable. Derrick Rose went AWOL. He received no suspension and got a light fine. Sheldon Richardson comes to the New York Jets, immediately makes an impact on the defensive line. He is supposed to be, possibly, in position to be, the best defensive lineman in the NFL. People are talking about that. Sheldon Richardson is the future. This year, he feuds with Brandon Marshall. He is late to meetings. He engages in expletive-filled Snapchat stories. And the only entity that suspended Sheldon Richardson this season was the NFL for going 100 on the freeway with a 4-year-old in the back. The Jets never disciplined Sheldon Richardson because dysfunction does not hold dysfunction accountable. News broke yesterday, that Jets wide receiver Robbie Anderson was arrested. These things make too much sense to be a coincidence. This is a Matt Harvey problem, don't get me wrong, but this is also a Mets problem. Because I don't see these problems on the Patriots. And let's go with the same sport. I don't see these problems on the Yankees. Aaron Judge will never act in the way that Matt Harvey acts. It won't work on the Yankees because Aaron Judge his head will never blow up to the size that Matt Harvey's head will never blow up. If you play for the Yankees, let's stick to the same sport. If you play for the Patriots, your head will never blow up like Sheldon Richardson's head blew up. The Patriots will cut you. They cut Landon Collins because his head blew up too big. Because they're not a dysfunctional franchise. So when they see a guy misbehaving, you're not bigger than the Patriots. You're not important enough for us to deal with this. But when you go to the Mets, when you go to the Knicks, when you go to the Jets, and you burst onto the scene, and you are a star rookie who is basically thrusted right into the limelight, you start feeling yourself. You start considering yourself really, really important. Clint Frazier actually tried this in the preseason this year on the Yankees. Clint Frazier wanted to wear number 7. That's Mickey Mantle's number. Clint Frazier went to the Yankees front office and said, 7's been my number my whole life, man. I want to be number 7. Sorry, Clint Frazier. You're not Mickey Mantle. Sit down, son. He wanted to keep his hair. He had big, long, luscious red hair. That's against team policy, Clint Frazier. You're going to have to cut it. Because you, Clint Frazier, you are a highly touted prospect, but you are not bigger than the New York Yankees. You are nothing compared to the New York Yankees. Aaron Judge has been spectacular, but if he starts to act like he's all that, sit down, son. You're not Derek Jeter. You're not Jorge Posada. You're not Andy Pettitte. You have accomplished absolutely nothing. You're not Mariano Rivera, so I drop everyone in the core 4. The Mets' other prized possession is Noah Syndergaard. The Mets are supposed to be a World Series contender because they have this fantastic young pitching. So the Mets have Noah Syndergaard, right? 2 weeks ago, the doctors suggested a precautionary MRI after his second to last start. He refused the MRI from the Mets doctors. He said, I'm okay. I know my own body. I got this. Let me pitch. I don't need an MRI. So he refused. He pitched 2 Sundays ago. Threw a disconcerting number of fastballs right out of the gate. Where people have speculated he was throwing fastballs to show, like, my arm's fine. To kind of, shut everyone up about or not everyone, really, just the Mets management is the only one who knew this. Just kind of show them that he's all right, So he threw a bunch of fastballs, I think 10 out of his first 11 pitches, and threw them as hard as he could. Then he threw a curveball later in the game and grabbed his lat muscle a little bit. Clearly he felt something in that lat. His next pitch he threw at 97 miles per hour, completely blew out his lat. This is a kid who just, he felt invincible. He felt like he was bigger than the Mets. He felt like nothing could harm him. And I just get the feeling that when a Yankees doctor says, hey kid, go get an MRI, they go get an MRI. Sorry, that's how I think it works at the Yankees. I'm making a small assumption, and this is also on Syndergaard, but organizationally, this looks bad. It looks bad on Noah Syndergaard. Now, I will say this. I want to differentiate the two situations, Harvey and Syndergaard, because Syndergaard, I could see that as a young competitor, why you could get overzealous in that manner. With Harvey, it's more, immaturity. You should be better than that. That's not an issue of possibly competitiveness getting in the way and doing something stupid that a young pitcher would do and injuring yourself. With Harvey, maybe you have a partying problem, a drinking problem. Maybe you don't care about your teammates enough to show up for the game. Harvey's is worse, but I'm just saying, as a rule of thumb, there are reasons why the Jets and the Mets and the Knicks, why dysfunction with these organizations kind of creates a positive feedback loop and is perhaps a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's because these young guys come in and they think they're bigger than the organization, and these are the kind of things that happen.
Well, you got to be talking about team dynamics. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a difference in this world between winners and losers. There's companies that win, there's teams that win, there's people that win, and then there's those that do not. So what is the difference? What are the expectations that we have for ourselves? What are the expectations that we have for our teammates? What is our vision for where we're going to be, and how does that vision drive you? So the biggest question you have to ask yourself when you look at a bunch of some of our New York's sport icons, why do they not take that opportunity seriously? Because their vision of where they're going to end up is probably someplace in the middle and not at the top. So you got to build those team dynamics, and that's what a true leader's got to do.
Yeah. Well, I think that these guys come in and they want to be Derek Jeter, but they don't realize that Derek Jeter became Derek Jeter. This didn't happen overnight, right? When he came in 1996, and this is something that even Mike Francesa was saying earlier today, Derek Jeter didn't become Derek Jeter right away. He wasn't a rookie sensation that was like Odell Beckham Jr. started, getting attention in any ways other than winning championships and getting results. That's all he was doing.
Derek Jeter, Henrik Lundqvist, these are guys who understand team. These are guys who lead teams.
Professionals.
Absolutely.
Professionals.
And they live as part of the team. They build the team. They sacrifice for the team. They contribute to the team. And they drive the vision.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Yankees are off to a very, very hot start this year. And we're a month in. Their record is 21-9. Everyone's going crazy. Rightly so. Everyone should be excited about this team. So before I don't think I'm going to put a dampener on it, but it might sound like I'm putting a dampener on it. I don't mean to, but, and this is coming from someone who actually started waving the Yankees pom-poms early last year and got burned for it. So we're a month in, which everyone knows it's early, but people have not hesitated to call the Yankees World Series contenders. I mean, after the Cubs series, who are the other World Series favorites, if you went to ESPN after the Cubs series, the lead headline on ESPN was, these Yankees and these Cubs should meet in the World Series. Already, we're a month in. So, could I buy into a team a month into the season? Sure I could. Here's why I feel like you should kind of hit the brakes a little bit. You look at a couple of the Yankees batters who have really performed here. All right, let's go Starlin Castro, okay? Starlin Castro, last year he batted .270. Pretty good, by the way. This year, he leads the Yankees in batting average. He's batting .358. .270 to .358. Aaron Hicks, here's a good one. Last year, he batted .217. This year, he's at .342? I mean, if the season ended now, Aaron Hicks could be the AL MVP. He could be the AL MVP. He batted .217 last year. Ronnie Torreyes, that's right. Ronald Torreyes batted .258 last year. He's batting .316. Ronald Torreyes. Jacoby Ellsbury, he batted .263 last year. Everyone was very disappointed in Jacoby last year. This year, he's at .290. Not just the averages, guys. Brett Gardner hit 7 home runs last year. He's hit 6 already. So, I mean, I'd love to, start to, think that there's been some magical transformation that the New York Yankees players have undergone. But it's a little bit nonsensical. It just is. Even Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge didn't hit for good average last year. Aaron Judge last year, I believe, batted around .220. I'll check real quick. In fact, I think it was even worse. It was. My goodness, I was off. Aaron Judge, 84 at-bats. He batted .179. Now, Judge is a special case because I think he's worked very hard over the offseason. I think he's filled a lot of gaps, and I think he's an absolute stud. And I think he'll continue to be. But, guys, the Yankees weren't sprinkled with pixie dust in the offseason. So, everyone calm down. Everyone just calm down a little bit. Now, be excited and enjoy, because this is a young team. There should be no pressure this year. I stand by what I said about the Yankees. I still think that they are a dynasty. Very, very soon, the Yankees will be a dynasty. And by 2019, they will be overwhelming World Series favorites. I have no doubt in my mind about that. But when you have this many guys, this multitude of players who are literally 30 to 50 points over last year's batting average, you have to see a statistical you have to recognize a statistical anomaly when you see one. This has been a statistical anomaly. And with the pitching, I don't want to leave them out. Hopefully Severino can continue. He's hot and cold. He'll continue to be hot and cold. Pineda, maybe he's figured it out. CeCe's pitching very well. Tanaka's pitching very well. This could continue, but this is not an elite staff. Besides Tanaka, who can be great, CeCe Sabathia, he's pretty good. He'll continue to be average to slightly above average. Pineda will continue to have really, really great starts and really, really awful starts. And Severino's the wild card, where I think this season we'll see. Severino's a really young guy. We'll see if Severino is the pitcher of the future, or if he's kind of going to be a kind of a middle of the rotation career guy in the major leagues. Severino, we're still trying to figure him out, and that'll be interesting to watch this year. Other than that, this is not a rotation that can take the Yankees to the World Series, in my opinion. The bullpen's great, although it hasn't been as good, especially Chapman, as it could be. I love the bullpen. I think the hitting's gonna cool off, but probably stay pretty good. The pitching, not quite there. We'll see. Wait until August, I'd say. August is usually a good landmark. You see, last year I was very, very patient. Last year I actually waited until July. And then in July I freaked out and said that the Yankees were going to make the playoffs. But it was too soon. They collapsed in August. So this year I'm going to try to wait till August. Let's see if I can do it. It's always a challenge with baseball fans. Like, how long can they wait before they make a conclusion on the team? Because people are a little bit ridiculous. Die-hard baseball fans, it's just a known fact. They watch every game, and when they lose, it's the end of the world. And when they win, everything's tremendous. Your brother-in-law, Eric Moe, with the Mets, you talk to him, and you can tell in his tone of his voice whether or not the Mets lost or they won. But the reality is...
He's usually grumpy.
Usually grumpy. But the reality is, this is a long-ass season. So with the Yankees, all I'll say is these guys, they're playing too much better than they did last year for me to buy into who this team really is. You'll start to see who this team really is when they get closer to what they were last year. If they continue to win games and Castro is back to 280, let me give them all like a 10 a 10 to 15 point boost. That's realistic. Guys improve. Guys don't improve 50 points, though. And we're looking at guys that are 50 points above their averages. We're looking at a guy in Brett Gardner who's almost equaled his home run total a month into the season. Like, this is just ridiculous.
So who do you really credit with that kind of performance? Is it really the players? What is it when you think about the team that you root for, right? It's your geography. Is it a player? Is it a manager? At the end of the day, it's the management. And the Yankees manage their team. You said it before. They don't take crap. They require excellence. They require discipline. And they make the investments in the backside of the team that we don't see on the field every day. And that's what makes the Yankees great.
Culture is a good word, right?
Leadership and culture.
Yes, and right, leadership kind of creates a culture. And look, the Yankees have created something good. I didn't have respect for Brian Cashman as a general manager, though, before the trade deadline of last year. I didn't, because you have gobs and gobs of money to work with. And prior to last year, all I see in Brian Cashman is a dude who knows how to spend money irresponsibly to a point in which the contract works in the beginning. And maybe you win a championship in the beginning, a la 2009, an offseason where they spent gobs of money, got A.J. Burnett, CC Sabathia, and Mark Teixeira. They win it in 2009, and every single contract was a bad contract. I didn't have respect for him until last year's trade deadline, where they dealt Andrew Miller on a contract year, they dealt Aroldis Chapman on a contract year, and they dealt Carlos Beltran on a contract year, not to mention Adam Warren, and they got so many pieces in return that now their farm system is stacked. They have a bunch of young guys like Judge, who they drafted, and they have Cashman's bad contracts coming off the books in the next couple of years. So they're going to be spending money, and they're going to have heaps of young talent to choose from, and we're going to see something great. So I agree with you on the Yankees. Everyone should be excited about the Yankees, but they should also kind of be holding their horses in a way. I'll say one thing about the NBA Finals. The Cavs and the Warriors are both 8-0. They both swept the first round of the playoffs. So, the media will twist it. They'll make a story. For the first time since like the 1970s, and I wish I had that right. I might not have that right. I'll try to get that for you now. But for the first time since the 1970s, two teams swept in the first round. You know what that's code for? We've seen some crappy series. That's what it's code for. And, any good publication, any good journalist will take what happened and make it into a storyline, especially when you have millions of dollars invested in selling a product, right? So ESPN has millions of dollars invested in selling the NBA. So, of course, it's going to be, oh, my God, they're on an imminent collision course. How great is this? The Cavs and the Warriors. What we have is non-competitive basketball. So here's what I'll tell you. Watch hockey. That's what I'm telling you right now. Watch hockey. Because if the Rangers win tonight, we have 3 Game 7s. We will have 3 Game 7s in the course of 48 hours. So watch hockey. That's all I'll say. All right. So that's
your backhanded way to deal with LeBron. Don't even watch him.
Well, look. Let me say this. I will get to LeBron in the finals, Dad. Don't you worry. I'm going to start a series with Billy Perlmutter, Joe Abitanta. Every single finals game, we will be here. We will be breaking it down. Hopefully, we get a competitive series. We might not. This imminent collision course sounds great until the Warriors win in 4 or 5. I hope that doesn't happen. And the truth is, it might be a competitive series because LeBron's played unbelievable. And I wouldn't have even said that in last year's playoffs. I would have said, LeBron's not shooting the ball too well. I don't know. And the Cavs actually pulled it out. This year, of course, Golden State is Kevin Durant, game changer. But I think LeBron is playing much better this year than he did last year. So that's it for the slate of local, and I touched on the national sports there with the basketball. Anyway, can't wait till the finals, but my advice to you is watch hockey. I've been looking forward to this show for a while with you because we talk a lot about the show. We just do. And sometimes I think it's airworthy. What do you think? It's airworthy. So now we get to do it on air.
Yeah, well, it's been a long road, and the good news is you're still working here.
You haven't fired me,
No,
right?
Not yet.
So that's pretty good. Better than the ESPN guys can say.
That's it.
Ooh.
Right? That's
Was that a bad joke?
door. That was wow.
That was kind of a bad joke.
Well, they don't run on the same budget that we do, so they've got a lot more pressure.
That's true. I do work for free in a way. Well, I make a little bit of money, but YouTube they take 60%. It's not the greatest. But I don't like that joke, by the way, I just made. I don't like it at all.
Nope.
Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. Actually, the
Okay.
ESPN layoffs. But let's go all the way back. Let's tell the story. I don't have time to drink that. Let's tell the story of keeping score. Okay, so I'm working at WABC, and if I remember correctly, ABC cancels the scorecard, right?
That's right.
But wants me to do a podcast because they love me over there, right? And
right.
I love doing work for them, so they wanted me to do a podcast. So I'm ready to set up this podcast, and I keep getting, my program director, who I had a great relationship with, I kept getting like, hey, really busy time, let's talk in a month. Really busy time, let's talk in a month, right? And I knew he wasn't just, blowing smoke up my ass. I knew that it must have been a really busy time, and he must have really needed to talk to in a month. Eventually, I get no response. I get a response from someone completely different saying new program director. I emailed the new program director, and it's like, really busy time, I'll talk to you in a month. Right?
That was it.
Exactly. It's like, then it was like, just trying to get used to this new job, I'll talk to you in a month. Eventually, we're no longer here. So I guess at that point, I come home and I'm like, wow, no ABC. What am I going to do now?
Well, so first of all, WFAS was a tremendous launching ground. There was no story I liked better than when you would come home and say, well, I was there doing my thing. I did my 60-second update. And then all of a sudden, the host had to leave. And there I was. I was there. So what'd you do? He says, well, I did the show.
Yeah.
And as the station kind of, the interesting thing, it was a great opportunity to really learn about the business and about how shows are syndicated. And, it's not this DJ in a little building with 3 big antennas out in the field someplace anymore. It's big business. It's factory radio. And what you saw happen at WFAS was exactly that. And but it was a great opportunity to really see how challenging and how demanding the marketplace really is, and what does it take to make money in the business. Because at the end of the day, radio, media is business.
Yeah.
And so I think that was like really your first exposure to that. And it was very formative, without a question. And but you definitely fell in love with radio. Even today, where you kind of do radio on video, you really fell in love with radio. And it was a very endearing thing. But when you started, you wanted to do a pure podcast.
Pure audio.
You were not into the video at all.
Well, I think that conventionally, first of all, conventionally, that's what a podcast is. And I think that that's what ABC obviously had in mind. But I would say I didn't really resist the video. I think the main thing was I saw, I got into MMA at the time, and I saw mostly Helwani and Rogan on YouTube. And since then, I've really recognized what an unbelievable place YouTube is. And they do have a monopoly on, internet video viewing. They have a complete monopoly. And I think that at this time, I read something that said, and I don't know if this was from YouTube. I didn't look too closely at the source. I did read something that said that more people spend more time watching YouTube now than they do television.
Well, if you really think about it, you think about how television has changed. And I won't take you back to the black and white 3 channels on the
Please
old
don't.
Philips. But what really happened was there were years and years and years where everybody had to sit down. They had to be sitting in their sofa at 6 o'clock to hear Walter Cronkite.
Right.
And if you were there at 6 o'clock, you saw it. And if you weren't, you missed it. And then you had this little thing, this little company, little technology disruption called TiVo. It almost became a verb, right? I'm going to TiVo it. And they built the concept of time shifting where we could record it when it occurred and then watch it at our convenience.
Yeah.
Then this little thing called the cloud, right? And the cloud began to change everything. Don't forget when Google bought YouTube, YouTube was just another little startup, right? And YouTube.
Well, how much did they pay? Like a lot.
Yeah, they paid about $2 billion.
Okay.
But YouTube's worth a lot
What's it
more
worth
than
now?
$2 billion.
That's the question.
There's no question, although I don't really remember accurately. But it was a lot of money for a transaction at the time. And but what they understood was where media was going to go. So now you have fundamentally TiVo in the cloud. Again, small little disrupting companies, right? It was YouNow, Periscope. These were some of the companies that started to do streaming. And by the way, they did it on technology that Google built and invented. But they really saw how they could apply it, and they started to stream. If you really think about what's happening today, right? We all know that people are cord cutting. We all know that internet speeds have gone way up, and we can run anything we want over the top. You really look at it, and YouTube, quite frankly, might very well be the future of what we used to think was cable.
Right. And YouTube launching its own, I don't even know what to call it. It's now a TV provider, YouTube TV. They offer about 35 of the biggest channels. I believe
Right.
they charge how much a month? Like $30 a month?
About $30 a month.
Yeah, and so they're advertising for that. That's very interesting. Anyway, so let's jump ahead. We basically decide, okay, I got to do my own thing. I had a lot of confidence from ABC. Obviously, like we went over, it was an awesome experience, and I think that I knew that I could put on an entertaining sports talk show. So I had to do something. So we decide on video, and we start building this studio.
That's right.
Do you how hard did you think this was going to be?
Oh, wow. I don't know. Reality. Cost of entry to try to do this thing is significantly different than it was 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. A lot of the YouTube that you see is running off a Mac, off a laptop camera, and maybe even off a laptop mic. So I think the question is not how hard did I think it was going to be, but I think the question is more, what did I think it had to be? What was the investment that we had to make, not in terms of money, but in terms of time and effort,
right,
to actually deliver a valuable product to your viewers? And so that's not a question that I had a clear view of, without a question.
Okay. So the answer was it took a year. And I certainly did not anticipate it taking a year. It took a legitimate year. My goal was really to have it all ready to go by the end of last summer, which would have been, around the 8-month mark or, 8 to 10 month mark. And it took like an additional 3 months. We are now 5 months into the process. So it took a year. People probably don't understand, right? But as someone, you and I, really every little kink, nothing was put in place by a professional. This was all you and I.
That's
what
right.
do people on the outside, do you think that there's one thing, like people can't even imagine like how difficult this was to do, where you would think it would be easy, but it wasn't?
Well, it's about layers, right? It's layer upon layer upon layer. It's getting the mics right? Mics sound different. It's finding the software that's going to let you stream and record. I mean, it's not a question around how much is out there. It's a question of how much is, easy enough to use, right? You're a one-man band, right? I don't have a producer who's taking your cuts and doing your mixes. So we had to find the right software. We had to find the right combination of displays and lighting and seating and sets. And at the end of the day, I know you hate to hear it, but if you do the work, you get the results. And so I think you've put together a really great product, and I think that your show stands out, right? Logos, intro music, outro music, graphics.
Yeah, that new mic, by the way.
New mic
sounds fantastic in my headphones. I'm just letting you know.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about things like the phone. How hard could it possibly be to take a telephone and put it into a soundboard? I mean, it sounds so easy, but I'll tell you what, this was so freaking difficult to do.
Yeah, that was really a surprise for me, to tell you the truth. I was just amazed by how hard that was, how complex that was. So, it kind of starts off easy. Just go buy this particular box from this particular vendor and plug it in. So, you get the box, you open it up. There's this little piece of paper in there. It has a picture of the back side of the box, and it says plug wires in here.
Right.
That was it. And so what do? You go back and you talk to the people that you got it from, and they say, well, how do you hook it up? And so they draw you a drawing, and it kind of looks like a hidden treasure map or something like that. So you come back, you try to hook it up, and we made some progress. And the progress was that if somebody was on the phone, you could hear them. The only problem was that when you talked in the mic, they couldn't hear you back. So what do? You look at the treasure map, you look at the wiring, you go back, you call the guys you bought it from, and then they give you a different answer. Well, you got to plug this in here, that in here, and then buy the other piece. So we probably spent, in fact, I still calculate every single time you have a phone-in guest exactly how much investment that phone-in guest cost us. So that was actually very interestingly very difficult. Whereas the expectation was that we were going to do a lot more Skype.
Right, and that the Skype thing has been more a guest problem, where I find that a lot of guests. First of all, if I have a major guest, I only have one Skype guest. So 19 shows now.
That's right.
One Skype guest, and I don't feel like if I, let's say, have Sid Rosenberg coming on, because I only have experience doing it once, I'm not going to say, Sid, let's do Skype, because I don't have that I just don't want to make a mistake, right? In the case of so that's basically what's going on now with Skype, and then all my other guests, they can come in locally, and obviously that's better. So I haven't done much Skype, and I've done a lot of phone. It is a lot easier to have a human interaction with someone when they're right there and when you can see their face.
That's right.
It is. So I do think it's better, especially when it's not so much an interview. When I'm trying to make it a discussion, it's much harder via phone. But really, we've come a long way. I want to just play for everyone. So I said in the intro video, the first video that was ever made on this channel, that I'm sorry, I'm having some mouse trouble. I said that I hoped that we would look at the first couple months of content and laugh at how bad it is. Well, I just want to put a couple things up. So you see how we look right now, right? This right here is keeping score number 4. This is the first in-studio guest that I had. That's Mason Stein, when we were talking about the aftermath of the Ronda Rousey fight. That's what it looked like. So, I mean, just aesthetically, it's been a lot better. And then even if you look at... I actually watched it today because I knew that we would kind of be reminiscing. Even if you just look at my first video ever, the channel intro, the way I'm, just the way I'm talking and interacting with the camera is completely awkward. Literally, as I'm saying, excuse me, as I'm saying, I hope that this video looks terrible in 5 months. I'll tell you what, I watched it today. As I'm about to pull it up, it looks terrible. I sound terrible, and that's something that was, I think, one of the main goals with doing this, and I think we have kind of accomplished that. And the internet's slow, but really, if you just if you go back and watch that video, you'll see there's a big difference. So that's something it's been good.
Well, I mean, even the wardrobe has improved.
Yeah, the wardrobe's improved. I apologize. This is a little step down from recent. I've looked very good on the keeping scores recently. This is a little bit of a step down, but
where's the sport jacket thing going on? I thought that was a pretty good look.
I know, I do too. It was a bit of a mad dash before the show today. Don't take it personally, though.
Oh, okay.
Don't take it personally.
Well, I dressed down for you today, just so that
Okay, that's fine. You see, this is it. So, basically, not. So, first of all, I'll ask you, what do you think the future is of keeping score? So we just looked at a 5 month difference, aesthetically, what some of the differences are. One of the things I'll say right off the bat, one of the things that's different from the first couple months and now is, I think in the first couple months, the quality of the show was very dependent on the quality of the guest, because I was going straight interview. I really wasn't a big part of the show besides how good were my questions. And now I'm really trying to be more involved in the show itself, and kind of, even when I have a guest, take some times after the guest is gone to give some of my takes, and when I'm interviewing a guest, to really get more involved in a conversation and really engage in what could resemble some sort of debate. I think that's been the biggest adjustment that I've made.
Well, no question that guest interaction is improved. Part of this journey for you has been, is it about the guest? Is it about the host? And arguably, what experience has shown us is that it's some combination. It's not like I'm some big media expert, because I'm not. But you watch it and you know what you like. You know what you see. You know what you like. You know what entertained you. You know what kept you interested. And I think there's a balance. So I think that that experience has proven that the obligation on the host is to help make the guest successful.
Right. I definitely agree with that. That's something that any good radio host will pride themselves in, the ability to make any guest sound hilarious, sound insightful, right? Especially, you look at, and it's not that I'm not, they know that I'm good on air, but when I go to WABC and I'm on with Bernie and Sid, these segments are hilarious, and they are confident that they can put their intern on the air and they will make a hilarious segment, and they really are, hilarious, and I'll give them most of the credit there. I'm not making jokes about what's his name, oh my God, Sandusky, when I go on, but they are, and basically, first of all, you can check out the video, look up Gill on Bernie and Sid if you want to see one of the segments where I was on Bernie and Sid. But that's something that I agree with you. Any good radio host will pride themselves, or podcast host, in making the guest great. But I felt like in the beginning, I had no control, and I almost I wasn't the show, and I could have been a list of questions. And recently, I'm trying to take charge, and I want someone more than not. I think the show is best, and it might sound egotistical, but this is just, it doesn't. I don't really care how it sounds. This is how I feel. I think the show is best when I can do my thing, and my thing is what you saw for, now, yes, but my signature, I would say, is more what we saw the first 30 minutes of the show. Whether it be bashing the Mets or, previewing the Ranger game, these are things that I want to do. And to have a second wheel who can bounce off of me, like Christine Leahy is to Colin Cowherd, that's kind of what I began looking for. Instead of this long-form podcast format where, Joe Rogan brings on these people. These are the most interesting people in the world. He's bringing on Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's bringing on Eddie Bravo and Brendan Schaub if he wants to talk MMA, or Dominic Cruz and John Jones, or, if he's talking comedy, he's bringing on these high up comedians. I don't have that. So it needs to be me. I need to, the show's success needs to be in my hands, not the guests.
Well, it's always in the host's hands. I mean, Rogan makes his guests more interesting.
Of course.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, Bernie and Sid, some of the greatest talent maybe, in North America, if not in this hemisphere, without a question. And so they make the guests great. And that's the real magic. Listen, I'm certainly not an Oprah Winfrey fan, but, part of her magic, Phil Donahue, Letterman, I mean, just go through them. And I mean, it's easy to pick, the handful of small people. It's a small handful of the truly greats who've made it happen, but they've made it happen. And that means anybody can make it happen, right? And kind of goes back to, what you talk about in sports, which it's about, leadership, it's about discipline, it's around standards, and it's about what you demand of yourself.
Yeah. All right. So looking ahead, I want to try to get Zach Hampel. I've landed the guest, so I did something very ballsy. And when I had Scott Messina on, I want to say keeping score, maybe number 11 or 12, I said I revealed all the guests that I wanted to have on.
That's right.
And so far, I landed Sid, I landed Ray, and I landed Steve Flink. Steve Flink's going to be a repeat customer, I'll say. The one guy off the list is Zach Hampel, so that's coming soon. I'll preview that. But anyway, I think that, this is the show. It's headed in the right direction. What's one thing though? I think I'll know what you're saying. What's one thing you'd want to change right now?
More graphics.
More graphics and more. In the beginning, you think people should know what's coming.
I think structure. I think people,
more structure, more graphics.
I mean, you have a great variety of things that you bring on. You have viewers that are interested in different pieces. You see that as you look at the statistics for your published videos. And so I think that structure is important. I think that viewers want to know what you're going to be talking about at the beginning of the show. I think that they want to know what the next thing and the next thing and the next thing is going to be. And I also think that visual cues are actually very helpful. They make it more interesting. And I mean, you can't really compare this to television, but if you really look at what goes on with the graphics in television,
right,
truly amazing. Why? Because that is the primary tool they have to trade in.
Yeah. All right. So that was good. Let's talk about you a little bit.
Okay.
So essentially, you take people's jobs using technology for a living.
That's my job.
That's your job, right?
That's my job.
So I put that correctly.
Proudly doing it for 20 years.
20 years. 20 years of taking technology.
That's right.
And using it to take people's jobs.
That's right. That's
wow.
Right.
So you've been talking, because you talk about these things. This is what I go through. Will natural language generation take my job?
Well, actually, my viewpoint is yes.
First, explain what it is.
Okay. So,
yeah, we're talking to sports fans.
Well, we've
Dad.
gone. We just jumped all the way to the end, right? Natural language generation. But, I mean, if you think about technology, you go back to the 1980s. We were spending companies, the government, military. Everybody was spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on technology. Computers were slow. Everything took forever, and we pretty much went through the 80s wondering if it was even worth the investment. And, it's been too many years for us to actually remember, like when the microcomputer, the PC, was actually first brought out, right? And people looked at them and said, silly little machines. But the fact is that great thinkers like Bill Gates really made that happen. And so now the question was, if you really think about it, computers at that point in time were kind of assistive. The PC helped the human do their job better. So I didn't have to use whiteout and a typewriter and throw throw paper away. I can make corrections online, and so that was actually kind of pretty cool. Um, and then what really happened was the internet, right? And the internet came out of government research. I still remember the day I saw the first time I ever saw a Netscape browser. It was this little box. It was blank, and there was nothing in it, right? And so, uh, you know, people at Netscape understood that that could change the world, and they could see it. And so, what did that do? So, first we had assistive technology with the work that we did, and then the internet began to actually be something that could give us more than we were generating in our own heads, right? If you're on a word processor, it's the product of what you generated in your own head. If you're now navigating the web and you're collecting information and maybe interacting with that, now you have the power of these things that are being brought to you, and you are cognitively assimilating them and doing things with them. You're making changes with that. You're seemingly smarter, right? Think about all the stats that you talk about online. How could you collect that without the massive amount of information that's published today?
Would have been
It'd be
impossible.
very hard, right? Well, you'd have to have friends all over the place attending all these games and watching and counting. And I don't think that many people really like you that much. So that really wouldn't really work out. But so, you know, the web was really very significant. And all the meantime, actually since, well, frankly, I guess 1957, and then a little bit in the 80s, and, you know, then emerging in 2015, actually artificial intelligence really became mainstream. So what artificial intelligence is doing is it emulates, in some cases, what people do with their fingers, and in some cases, what they do in their heads. And so how that's changing, it's a good thing in many ways for our country, because what companies have done for years, and the reference that you make around me destroying jobs across the U.S. has been that, you know, offshoring and outsourcing has been the mechanism by which this country has remained competitive, economically competitive. And I know that's counterintuitive. And I'm not, you know, a big, you know, China fan, but the fact is, if goods were being produced in more expensive countries, prices would be higher, and that means inflation would be higher, and that also means that those people in our society who have less wherewithal would be in worse shape. So all of this plays a part. The fact is that offshoring actually creates a competitive impairment. So now what's happened is we found ways to utilize technology that are once again going to kind of revolutionize our lives. So we're going to go from the information age to the automation age, and everything will change. And so computers are no longer simply assistive. They're no longer our kind of passive assistants, but they become active assistants. And they're able to crunch data, collect information. There's computers today running on Wall Street that are consuming every tweet, including Mr. Trump's, every single one of them, trying to make sense out of them and correlating and putting them together. And and that is a form of thinking, because it's listening, it's social listening. Now the question is, how do you take that and how do you begin to really do things with it? So, you know, I'm not way out there with guys like Kurzweil who think that robotics will become very dangerous, and there are organizations that are coming together that are trying to decide what is ethical robotics or not. There's no question that there'll be good robots and bad robots. There's good people and there's bad people. But I think that it's going to force us to challenge our ways and our you know, our way of living, our way of working, our way of thinking. I think it's going to challenge us in new ways. And but there's no question about it. It will be a very significant rebalancing of the job market by the time you're my age.
Yeah, right. There's so much to think about. It's like you think about cars, right? So the only way, and a lot of people speculate about, radio going extinct. The reality of the situation is will always be a market for audio as long as people are driving. But think about this. When our cars start driving ourselves, where's the market for audio? Now, how do you know people aren't watching video in their cars instead of listening to audio?
Exactly what's going to happen.
It changes everything when you really think about these things. So, like, what are some jobs that you think can be done by a computer? Okay, so I guess we've already covered taxi driver, lawyer.
Well, let's just start off. So autonomous vehicles are going to do a lot more than get rid of taxi drivers.
I know.
The insurance industry,
Right?
Auto insurance, right? In fact, the average adult uses their automobile 7% of the time that they own it. So companies like Ford and BMW and General Motors, even Uber, are probably going to become fleet operators rather than selling cars. So their businesses will change. That means the number of people that they employ will change. Cashiers. Computer vision is significantly changing the horizon for cashiers. We no longer... So if you think about that, right? We used to walk up to this little aisle at the store, and then this human being used to look at it and say, oh, well, that's cauliflower. In fact, I used to love doing the vegetable tests, like buy a really unique vegetable and then go to the cashier and see if this poor 18-year-old kid who doesn't eat vegetables can recognize what this is.
Yeah.
But that's not going to be a problem. So cashiers are... those types of jobs are going to go away.
But I think people think a little bit more, and this is maybe an unfortunate truth, but they think a little bit more about the high skill level, rare skill level jobs where people spend really hundreds of thousands of dollars to get an education, right? In these, I guess, I don't know, in areas to be equipped to go into these industries.
Sure. Well, let's
right?
talk about lawyers,
right?
All right,
lawyers.
So you watch TV, you see all the great lawyers, and then all of a sudden he stands up and he opens up this book and he says, Phillips versus Magnesia, 1932. There was a finding by the court, and they ruled this way. So precedent has been set. Well, you look at it and you think to yourself, oh, wow, how cool that he figured out and he found that, and he was really lucky. But the fact is, computers aren't really smarter than people. They're faster than people. So in the amount of time that it took that guy to read through all those books, or even using search technology and find it, get the right search argument and find it and read it and understand it, computers are able to ingest that, memorize that, categorize that, index it in 100 different ways, and it is at their beck and call instantaneously. So I think that all of those types of industries, which by the way includes medicine, right? Doctors. A really great doctor, he knows what's going on. He knows all the trials that are going on. He's read all of the journals. He's up to the latest. And by the way, he's read everything that tells you that if your DNA sequence looks like this and your test result comes back like that, that's the match. Well, how many people can read that, keep up with that, and retain all of that? And computers can do that very well.
I mean, I'm simplifying it, but I'll tell you this, and this stuff is crazy to think about, but when there's something wrong with me, the first place I go is Google and WebMD. Already. I mean, that's the reality. That's the first place I go. And you already see basically surgery, right, being done with micro, robotics, right, and laser and all that. Anyway, the question we started off with, but, knowing you have to go to, 1962 to answer a question. But...
Comes with age.
You did do that. I did say, can natural language generation take my job? And you went to the start of the internet.
That's true.
I'm just saying that's what you did.
I did.
I'm just pointing out a fact.
Well, I wanted to make sure, that you had the right context, right? Context and structure is important. But the whole point is, you talk about WebMD. It's both an assistive technology. It's information technology. So, what do we know? Let's talk about whether it can take your job. So, number one, the concept of natural language generation exists today, and so if you think about that, we started off with originally text to speech. Then speech to text, hey Siri, and it understood us. And the number of years that took was pretty incredible. In fact, maybe 30 years of that before that really became accent free, and you didn't have to train it, and you didn't have to do any of that. So now computers can hear you. They can retain that. They can retain that in digital form. They can begin to, for instance, record the Bernie and Sid show and associate with that, the Nielsen ratings and the social media impact and correlate all of that. And so now computers can begin to recognize what people like and what they don't, not by understanding what it is, but by understanding what it was and how people reacted to it. And so today we have computers that can write music. Well, how do they write music? There's constructs to music. There's music that is published and it's very popular, and there's music that's published that's not. So you begin to associate what you're able to retain with what you're able to observe, and that's how many cognitive things work. So
you want personality, you want these are very human qualities that you look for in a radio host. I mean, look, and I'm not just talking about radio, I'm talking play-by-play too. We look for human connection. When I see, I talk about my favorite play-by-play, Doc Emmerich. When you hear any real play-by-play guy that anyone likes, when you hear the excitement in their voice, that is a human connection.
That is, but
we're just
sentiment.
Talking. Yeah.
Listen, it feels as if one should say you're absolutely right. You're not going to be able to replace that. But today we can do sentiment analysis on input. So the same way we're able to read things and then we're able to retain them and then we're able to associate them with a reaction, whether it was social media or some rating, something, everything gets translated into a number. Eventually, everything can be translated into a number. So now the question is, if we understand sentiment, what is our ability to relate certain tonal variations and certain, volumes, choice of words to all of that?
Right.
So let's just say that human connection will never be replaceable. Let's just start there. The impact to media is still significant because what is the ratio of people who are on air, voice on the mic, face in the camera, versus the many jobs that sit beneath it that are finding stories, writing stories?
Right, I understand. So there's people who deliver the work people can deliver the work that technology does for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay. To me, by the way, when I think about sports and technology, obviously I've heard you talk about natural language generation because this is the places where your mind goes, right? Where if you have a child, based on the nature of what you do, you are going to first, before they go into an industry, assess if your computers can take his job, basically. So I'm not surprised with you, but VR is something that comes to mind. And you do talk. We've talked about this. 3D was too much of a hassle. People didn't want it.
Right.
But technically, with VR, we can be at the game, right?
Right.
Instead of looking at the game through, I guess, a camera.
Right. Well, VR gives you an immersive experience, right? And
right.
So
where you can look to your left.
3D gave you an augmented experience. And so the price of the glasses and some of the other downsides to it did not overcome the benefits.
Yeah.
But VR is being bet on by a lot of big money and a lot of big players. And I think there's no question that we're going to see more of that in a big way.
The leagues might not want it. You got to put asses in the seats.
That's true.
You can't make it too good at home. So the leagues might not want it.
Well, how long can you kind of fight? How long can you kind of fight progress? I mean,
not long.
Think about what are your favorite things? MMA, right? The UFC has done. UFC has used modern age media in order to enter a market. So the old way of starting a sport was you built franchises, you built stadiums, you got TV contracts, you hired people. What did they do? They got a camcorder and 2 rough guys and some fencing and 1 or 2 pretty women.
Yeah, their internet presence is tremendous. I mean, their output on YouTube is incredible. There are active MMA forums all over the internet. And the reason you see that is because there's a lack of, and there still is, by the way, new TV deal coming up that's going to be huge for the future of the sport. But for now, a lot of MMA coverage is designated to the internet, and it's not a problem for anyone. The fact that ESPN doesn't cover MMA, it's not bothering us. We're fine with Helwani, and we're fine because it's on YouTube, and in many ways that's more convenient than television. Anyway, so it's almost 7:00. It's almost game time. Game 6, baby. New York Rangers, Ottawa Senators. Win or go home. Before we wrap things up, I don't know what you can say right now publicly. I'm assuming you're all right, but you got a startup brewing here.
Absolutely.
So what's your public? I don't know. What if you're presented an opportunity to briefly explain your startup in public right now? What do you say?
What do I say?
Yeah.
Well, what we're really doing is trying to solve some of the problems that are associated with binding real human actors directly to machine and robotic type of actors. And so that might seem very simple. Google makes it look simple in many ways. When you do a Google search, you fundamentally see them binding your interaction directly with some of the best artificial intelligence in the world. The question is, how do you extend that beyond search? How do you extend that to the point of making it an assistive technology for people so that this big nasty thing that's going to come and eventually take your job, actually, at least until it takes your job, makes your day a little bit better.
All right, that sounds good. Are you going to say the name? The name might change, right?
Name might change. So our company is called ChoiceWorks, and our platform is called Continuum, which stands for Continuum of Applications, and how we bring all the applications in the world together to make your life better, at least for one day at a time.
All right, there you go. Well, this has been fun. The outro music is playing. We went over an hour. By the way, that's something that I've also changed. I don't know if you've noticed, but I used to kind of have I still try to get it in an area, but I used to be all right, let's do a 1-hour show. Then I change it. Let's do a 45-minute show. You're on YouTube. Screw it. I don't know how you feel about that, but if it makes you feel any better, we were just talking about Ariel Helwani. Helwani calls his show the MMA Hour. It is consistently 4 hours.
That's right. So I think that's a math problem.
There you go. So, if he can do it, we can do it. Anyway, this has been fun. Let's go Rangers. Gill Gross, Sam Gross, keeping score. Be back here. Same time, same place. Maybe Monday, though, next week. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.